Hi, welcome to this week's Torah. This week I want to share with you some reflections of things that happened to me during the week in the prism of the Parsha. We read this week's Parsha about Noach and the flood that happened in his times. Noach is commanded to build this teva, an ark, and he spends an entire year in this ark, and finally he comes out and he sees destruction and desolation. And Noach is told to rebuild the world, and when he rebuilds the world, the first thing he does is he plants a vine, and he plants grapes. And he takes those grapes and he squeezes them, and he drinks, and sadly he gets drunk. And Noach is chastised. He's called an Ish Ha'adam, the man of the land. He's taken down a few levels from what he was perceived as beforehand because of this action that he'd done. Now, why did Noach do this, and what can we learn from what happened to Noach? So some of the Mefarshim explain, some of the commentators tell us that Noach saw the destruction and felt it was impossible to rebuild again. He looked around at a world that was totally desolate. It had no people other than his family, had very few animals, and he thought to himself, this is never ever going to go back to normal. And so, in order to drown his sorrow, and in order to get himself out of that pain, he planted a vine, he squeezed out those grapes, and he created wine to wallow away his sorrows with drink. And we need to learn that that's not the way to do things. Yes, we're going to go through trauma in life. Yes, we'll go through setbacks and things won't go the way we want them to go. And sometimes we'll have to rethink. But when we come back into normal life, what is that going to look like? Are we going to embrace it with vigor? Or are we going to be depressed about the way it's going to go? So Noach got depressed. And we need to realize that we should not despair and instead celebrate to the best of our ability. So this week, I had the privilege of being at a wedding on Sunday. I know it sounds strange to say I had the privilege of being at the wedding on Sunday, but I hadn't been to weddings in so long. And I was there and I was very emotional. I felt, wow, look at this. Baruch Hashem. We're going back to celebrating Jewish simchas. We're going back after. I know we're not out of this yet, but at least people are looking forward. They want to celebrate. And then this morning we had a first call up and the Hilton Suite was full. The family didn't just invite 5 or 10 people as they normally do. They took advantage of the full allowance of the amount of people they can bring into the Hilton Suite. And they used that allowance to its fullest. As many people as they can to celebrate it with as many people as possible. And I think that is what we need to be looking forward to as well. Whilst we still are in Tier 3 and whilst we're still in the middle of Corona, the focus needs to be on how do we rebuild now. Even now, how do we make the most of our time? And how do we make the most of all the opportunities that are out there? And look forward to a time when this all disappears. To celebrate even greater simchas. To celebrate simchas where you don't have to limit the amount of people that come to a bar mitzvah, that come to a wedding, that come to shul. But the point is, never despair. Always see the glimmer of hope. Keep celebrating and keep going on and keep doing. That's what Noach's failure teaches us. And those are my reflections on the simchas that, please God, I'll be celebrating and have already celebrated this week. And so with that, I hope that you also, in your life, will have many, many simchas to celebrate. And I wish you all a very good Shabbos.